Hi, my beloveds. I just wanted to come on and basically talk to you a little bit about me and why I created this channel because it came to my attention that I started this channel and no one knows who I am. So, for those joining or following along, my name is Tiffany. Um, I've been in the truth and living the way for about 2.5, 3 years now. But this journey started for me I pretty much say since I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. I grew up in a family where, and please, my family is watching, my perspective and your perspective can be true at the same time because how you experience me is how you experience me, and how I experience you is how I experience you. But nonetheless, we are love for one another, and I will never take that from us. But this is my truth and my experience of my life. So, for me, I grew up in a family, mom and dad in the household, for the majority. I think up until I was maybe 14 years old. Both my parents lived in the household. 3 of my 5 brothers lived with me. My other 2 brothers lived with their mothers. But we very much knew who we were to one another. It was very important from a very young age that my parents wanted us to all know who we were to one another, especially for me being a young female out in the world. They never wanted me to cross paths and, potentially date my brothers. So I've always known who they were, what they look like, their mothers' names, and, things about their families that they were growing up with in Chicago. So I've always known that. My family is originally from East St. Louis. East Boogie, baby, yeah. Now, disclaimer, while my family is from there, I don't claim to be from there because I grew up majorly in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I am a Minnesota girl. North side through and through, get it together. All right, you know. About the age of 5, my mother moved us to Minneapolis, myself and 3 of my brothers. But by the time I was 6, my father and a friend of his had moved to Minnesota and were living with us again. And during that time, my parents trusted that man, and he, in essence, held me captive while he was babysitting. While my parents were at work, he would be babysitting myself and my brothers, but he would make my brothers do chores around the house, under the guise of, your parents said you have to get this done before they get home and you guys better do it. And he would have them separated from me. And I was molested by this man for about a year of my life. I didn't know anything. I don't, hold any hard feelings from this man. I knew after that, when it all came out and my mother figured it out what was happening, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I am pretty much a very happy, bubbly person all the time. And my mom started to notice that that light in me diminished and I wasn't that happy, bubbly girl. Now, let's be clear. My family did take what he had did, and there were consequences for him. I don't know what they all were. I don't primarily care. But I knew that for me, forgiveness was a must. Even at that young of an age, I knew that it wasn't quite, for me, it wasn't quite him, but the evil in him or the spirit within him that made him do these things. Later on in life, I found out that it was not just me, though. It was over years, and that people in the community around him knew. and they all did nothing, and they continue to allow it, which I find that is a thing prevalent in our community, where we know someone to be a certain way and we sweep it under the rug and we pretend like we don't see it, but you know what's happening, and so you continue to make more and more victims for this person, or these people, I should say. So, but after that was found out, my mom put me in some therapy. I got therapy for it, but I had already knew in my heart that I had to forgive this man. And to this day, I harbor no ill will for him. I hope he received the help that he needed prior to his demise and death. I don't know what happened with that, but I do know it was eventually, someone did tell me that years later that he was deceased. I don't know what happened. Don't care. So that's part of my story. But I say that as part of my story to also note that I knew at that young of an age that, of course, at the time, that God was calling me to do something different with my life, that my family wasn't living or had lived, or that I had known anyone in my family to live. I just knew that that was a calling on my heart. So I've always lived contrary to my family. I knew at that young age that I was set apart for something. Of course, I don't know what it is, but I'm searching for it and seeking it, but I know that it has to do with, at the time of my belief and thinking then, God. So I've always been the goody two-shoes, as you can say, in my family. Different, the non-smoker. At the time, I was a non-drinker. I really didn't drink alcohol, but my family was very into the party life. Like, let's turn up, let's do it. Which, hey, I ain't got nothing against a good turn up every now and then, but not every day, all day. That, no. My family is very impoverished in most parts, and most live below the poverty line. Most of my family that I know of don't have past a elementary or middle school education, and I was determined to never be that. I wanted higher education, and I've always been a lifelong learner. So I've pursued education. I am still taking classes to this day. Okay, I have pursued education for me. I just that was just something I knew. I have to fill my brain with information, no matter how useless it may seem or uninteresting it may seem. I like knowledge. I like knowing things and stuff. But I saw the conditions of a lot of my family members, and I didn't want that. So I pursued a life that would take me as far away from it as possible. When I was about 14, my parents split for the final time. Even though they lived in the household together, they had a complicated relationship with one another, and still do to this day. But when my mother finally left the home, we went to Memphis when I was about 14, moved to Memphis for about 6 months. And that was a culture shock for me. Ooh, baby. But I will say, I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but that was one place I've had the best egg rolls of my life in Memphis. But very much a culture shock. Apparently, I speak very proper English. To a lot of the young children then, they would always be like, oh my gosh, girl, you speak so proper. Can you just talk again? Okay. So, but then I came to know that as I spoke white. Yeah, I was fluent in it, apparently. Thank you. So, We moved there, lived in Memphis for about 6 months, and I could not take the heat. Came back. I literally could not take the heat. I passed out and fainted quite a bit. So it was decided, you got to go back to Minnesota. You can't do that. So I came back to Minnesota, lived with my dad for about a year. Got arrested for truancy. My aunt, who's one of my twin aunts, ditched me because she was with me, and she was like, "I'm 16." Oh, okay, all right, gotcha. So I ended up going to truancy jail. My dad did not come get me. He was like, "Make a stay." How rude. But I learned a valuable lesson. Locked up life is not for me. I crumbled quickly and knew that, yes, I am a snitch. I will tell on you because I will never go back to that life. So that is what I learned about myself, especially when they put the handcuffs on me and I was like, instant tears, sobbing, crying, "Mommy, where are you? Daddy, come get me." That was me. So that was definitely a part of my life. No. The whole entire time, though, still close with different churches. I actually probably went to maybe 2-3 churches at a time. I was always in a choir. I was always at a Bible study, just doing a lot of things centered around church and God and Jesus Christ. I just knew that was the life for me and the life that I wanted. Always wanting to be righteous and live a life where I knew that, I don't know if y'all remember that WWJD movement? Yes, okay, I had every bracelet, earrings, necklace, whatever you want to call it, that's what I had. So I was very much into that life and wanting to make sure that whatever I was doing was pleasing to God. I didn't, people were skipping school. I don't know, I can't. Girl, you always said you. I heard a lot of that. Was very much the nerd, if you will. Always in my book, I thought being a teacher's helper was like the cat's meow. Okay, get into it. That was me. I was a library assistant in elementary school and middle school. I wanted to be where the books were. The teachers. Yes, I was a teacher's pet. Okay, who I was. I loved it. English, literature, grammar, those were my things. I loved a good spelling bee. Okay, let's do it. Please, let's spell some words. That was my thing in school. But it came also with, I was the sister of the popular boys, which were my brothers. And they would always be like, "Yo, what's up with your sister, man? Like, does she ever?" No, she did not ever. But I also grew up with parents that were very hypocritical. The boys could do whatever, whenever, however they wanted, in essence, whereas I had rules and stipulations, and no boys could call the house for me. No boys could ever come over to the house for me, not even if we had a group project due. That's not happening. I never went to any school dances, never went to football games, basketball games, never invited to parties because everyone knew, oh, her parents ain't gonna let her go. But now my brothers, on the other hand, they were the it boys, sports, cool, popular, get along with anyone and everyone and everything, they were them. So I was protected because everyone knew you don't mess with her because of who her brothers were. But I really did not live that life of really having any kind of social life outside of school. So my social life existed only in school. I met my best friend in the 7th grade. That's a whole nother story, a whole nother shebang. But still, and again, my existence was still centered around making sure that whatever I was doing was pleasing to God. Then my sophomore year, leading into my, no, I'm sorry, yeah, sophomore year of high school, I ended up moving with my mother to Fergus Falls, Minnesota. Yeah, that's how that sounds, and it is. Where we were one of the first five or original five black families to live in the town. It was very challenging. It was the very first time in my life where I dealt with racism. Because living in a big city, it's a huge melting pot. Nobody's really. For me, it was never obvious. I never really head-on experienced it until I moved to this town. It didn't last long for me. The people, so many microaggressions all the time, and when a child blatantly just asks you, does your skin taste like a Tootsie Pop? Really? Where even the kids in the school would treat myself and my best friend differently because she lived there as well, because we were female, but they were in love, as you will, or whatever you want to take it, with my brothers, because, well, teachers were upset that they had to teach Black history for the first time because we were in the school. We didn't ask you to, but because I guess the state required it, if there were any Black students in the school at the time, then curriculum had to include that for February. To the point where we literally had one teacher just play Mississippi Burning and say, hey, here you go. Why? And again, we didn't ask you to. We don't care, but it was just tough existing in that school at that time. And so I couldn't take it. After a while, I could not take it. And so I decided to, let's leave. So I left and went to go back to live with my dad. However, that was intercepted by my youth pastor at the time. And I was just asking for a ride. Hey, can you pick me up and take me to my dad's house? And he was like, no, you're going to finish high school and you're going to live in a stable environment to do so. And if that means you have to come live with me, then you're going to come live with me. I'm not going to take you to a place where you're going to keep bouncing around. You're too smart for this, and I don't want to see it go to waste. And so the deal with him was, if I come get you, you're coming home with me. And end of that story. And I said, okay, I don't care. So my senior year of high school, I lived with my youth pastor and his wife and family, the Montgomerys. And it was, I want to say, the start of a whole nother perspective on life for me. Were there some issues in the beginning? Yes. Because again, you've got these two Black girls coming from the inner city, and we're living with a white family in the middle of Farmville, and there's barely any Black people around. And the things that we've already experienced in life is completely different from what things this family has experienced in life. Now, while my youth pastor is familiar with some of the things that we've experienced and gone through, his wife was not. And so we felt, especially me, I felt that because my best friend came as well, that she was trying to raise us as if we were her daughter as a teenager. Now, her daughter was younger than us at the time. Hey, Shampoo. But we were like, her perception was like, if my daughter was a teenager, how would I raise her? I would raise her this way. And it's like, we're not white girls living a completely different like we've experienced so much at this point in our lives. There's no way you can think that we can be raised like your daughter, who has lived a fairly sheltered life out here in the farm country. It's not going to work. So some of her ideals, while good intentioned, was rubbing off the wrong way on these two 16-year-old girls, soon to be 17-year-old girls. It was not working. So there was a lot of friction initially. But then it was like, you know what? For me, she's doing the best she can, and I just have to get her to see my perspective on life and what I've been through. So I started to share some of my experiences with her to get her to understand, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, even though I love a good musical, okay, yes, I will sing along to a good musical in a heartbeat. Les Miserables, Fiddler on the Tin Roof. Like, there are so many good ones that I love, and Rent, the producers, great, but I don't live in a life of a musical. Whereas her daughter at the time, or her children, some of her children at the time, for me, it was like they lived the life of a musical. This is not reality for us. TV, 1 hour a day. Say what now? Huh? This is our first time experiencing someone who had an alternative lifestyle, where we'd never heard of people having allergies to certain things. We were like, that's a thing? What? We didn't understand it. Listen, I love me some seasonings. And for her, she was allergic to a lot of those things. And so we like, wait, so you're not gonna season that chicken? That was different for us. And that drinking goat's milk. Say what now? You can get milk from a goat? These were the things that our little 16, 17-year-old minds could not fathom, that these were things that existed for others. So we were definitely living outside of our comfort zone. And so I started to embrace the experience of, she's giving me a window into her world, and I'm giving her a window into my world. And we actually created a really good bond. And I love my Mama M and Papa Art and the whole Montgomery clan to this day. That was such an experience, to where she grew me and I grew her. But she also showed me that it's okay, because at the time, again, I'm from a world of hustle, baby. Get what you got to get. Let's go make these dollars. If you, whatever you got to do to make that dollar to get you your rent paid, kids taken care of, the freshest gear, whatever you got to do it, and do you. Don't worry about nobody else. It's all about you. I did not know or think that even an educated woman could strive to just want to be a wife and a mother. Because I was like, you got degrees. Why are you wasting it being like, you know how much money you could be making right now? Like, why you waste? What? And she was like, no. I have always wanted to be a wife and a mother. And I was like, you can do that? Like, it's not like 1950. Like, you ain't got to. And it just opened my eyes that, what? So I kind of started to shift. And then, there was the biblical aspect of it that she would share with me and everything. And I also, that was the summer of prior to my senior year, so junior year, between junior year and senior year. That summer was actually, I would say, my first true encounter with God, where I just really truly felt his presence and his arms around me, because I was still struggling with who I was as a person. And like, where is this journey leading me? I still had no clue. So that was like my first encounter, and just to feel his presence just knocked my socks off. Like, I was like, I need more of that in my life. So good that I continued on to finish my high school diploma. Hey. So I graduated from high school, and I was like, well, going to college, because that has been my goal. I have worked so hard to gain all this knowledge and be smart and be an outcast and people not like me because I'm smart and all kinds of things. People just only seeing me for that. So it also became an expectation where people expected me to go to college. So I went off to college, and then I quickly learned she was not ready for college. She wasn't ready. I was ready for party life. Ooh, now listen, baby. Because I got a taste of freedom. Nobody's got rules on me. Nobody is dictating what I do, how I do, when I do. None of that. Y'all, I lost my mind. Listen, I lost my mind with the part. I don't think I went to class. I ain't go to class very often. Not even when class was in the same building as my dorm room. I partied. Like, let's turn up, Listen, I was twerking before twerking was a twerk, okay? I was pop, lock, drop it, get it, what you say, backing it up. Listen, I was in the back it up, drop it like it's hot academy. I graduated magna cum laude. I'm just trying to tell you, I was about that life, okay? I didn't meet a vodka bottle that I didn't like. I was straight up, no chaser, double shots, triple shots, let's go. I was messing it all up because there was nobody to tell me no. I had finally broke free of the double standards, the people being hypocrites in my life, people demanding I live a certain way, do things a certain way. I said, forget it. I'm rebelling. And I lasted one semester at college and went home back to my mama's couch. And that lasted for a couple months. And she said, listen, you grown. Grown people pay bills around here. So either you get a job or you're going to have to figure something out because you can't stay here without helping with these bills. That's what it is. So I got a job. I don't know if y'all remember Mervyn's, California. Yes, that was my thing. So I went back down to the city, was living with my homegirl, Trish, hey girl, and working. And I figured I just worked till I figure out what I want to do. Yeah, And then my mom said, yeah, that ain't happening either. So visiting with her for a little bit, she said, I just want you to go talk to these recruiters. I said, Mom, I'm not joining the military. Like, I don't understand. Who told you that the military is for me? Have you met me? Because back then, listen, I had an attitude. I was ready to fight. I had a knife. I used to have razor blades in my ponytails. Okay? I was thug life to a certain point. Because I also didn't like to fight. I would fight if I had to. Like, me and my aunts and my cousins, yeah, we gonna fight you. But me fighting somebody by myself, I didn't do that very often. A couple guys, I fought a few guys because they was calling me out my name because I was quick. Don't call me the B word, like it's on and popping, baby. What's happening? The only person that was allowed to was my bestie because we were each other's, and that was it. But anybody else, let's go. You getting these paws? Let's go. So my mom said, I need you to go talk to these recruiters, just hear them out. You don't have to do nothing. And so I thought I was going to talk to the reserve recruiters because that's what she had said. So I was like, you know what? This is only 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks for the year. You know what? I can commit to that because that still gets me to being able to do what I want to do in life and want, this career and what I got going. Because maybe I'll suck it up and go to law school like my dad said. I'll do that. So that's what I thought I was going to do. I ended up signing a contract thinking I was going to be a reservist, United States Air Force Reserve. I became active duty. Yeah. But I didn't know it until the 3rd week of basic training. Yeah, that happened. I served almost 5 years active duty. My first base was Mountain Home Air Force Base. Funny enough, my career in the Air Force was a chaplain's assistant, a religious affairs airman, if you will now. And I thought that was very apropos because I'm like, I love this. I get to be around people that love the Lord. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was the best job ever for me. I mean, in essence, if you will, I was an armor bearer for little armor bearers, because chaplains are non-combatants. I was their weapon for them in times of war. I would be their protection as they did ministry, on the battlefield around, the base or whatnot, because they cannot carry a weapon. I would be the person carrying the weapon for them. Outside of war, any and everything that they needed to run the base chapel was my job. Budget, programs, facility maintenance, upkeep, the technical operations with the public address system, all of that, preparing communion, everything, while also making sure that any member of the Air Force, they needed counseling for any thing that they were going through, and they wanted to have the counseling for a pastor's perspective or whatnot. We were there to ensure that they had access to that. Now, fun fact for those that don't know, the Department of Defense recognizes over 150 different religions. And so therefore, my job also was to ensure that there was a place or space on every military installation for anyone to practice whatever religion they choose to practice. So there was also a lot of pushback, especially from the Protestant and the Catholic communities on the base, of anyone that was not them practicing their religion in what they call the Catholic Church or the Protestant Church. We Baptists, you can't have somebody else up in here if they're not. That's not how it works. So you can't be all loving for everyone, but then you reject those that are practicing who they believe to be. Now, this was at that time, so please don't get it twisted. So I found that very hypocritical. Call yourself Christian, but y'all over here ready to start a holy war with someone who, they're Hindu and they don't believe what you believe, and you feel like since you can't force them to believe what you believe, you want to deny them access to freely practice their faith away from you, aside from you. And they're not trying to force you to become Hindu, but you really hated that about my job. But also keeping morale alive on the base. September 11th happened. I was one of the first to head off to war. Yeah, but it's not what you think. We can have a side conversation about that later. If you ask me in person, if you ever meet me or see me, whatever, you can ask me. I'll tell you. But that was an experience because also my security clearance hadn't come through at the time. So dumb little 19-year-old, no clue what's going on. I just know that the towers went down, and less than a week later, I was getting on a plane with no information because I couldn't be a part of the briefing to find out what we were doing because my clearance wasn't through yet. And everyone was ordered to not tell me anything, of course, So I'm flying around the world having no clue what the heck is going on and what I'm supposed to do other than protect my chaplain. That's all I got. That's all I know. I didn't know where I was going, what I had to do, any of that. So that was an experience. I did the Air Force for almost 5 years, got married during that time. I was married to my ex-husband for 13 years. But the marriage was over pretty much by the end of year 5. But we were trying, from my perspective, I was trying to keep it alive. I don't know what he was trying to do. I don't know. He'd have to share his perspective on it. I don't know. 2 kids. Hey, my little bows. So, which are my joy, and I do everything for them, try to ensure that they have the childhood and the upbringing that I wanted to bring or have for myself, so to speak. They are 2 of the most intelligent, smart, charming, athletic. I don't know where they got this athleticism from, because it definitely was not for me, but wow. But yeah, so the years of being in the military for him, because he did about 16 years total, 17 years total in a military career for active duty. So I followed him around after I got out, ended my career in Germany, crazy place. So my oldest is a German citizen, sprechen Sie Deutsch. There you go. Met so many wonderful people throughout my career. Still very much different from everyone else. I've still always been set apart, but still kind of struggling at the same time to find my way back. But I knew more and more going to church every day just was something that wasn't sitting right in my spirit. Whenever the pastor would talk, and I started to notice a pattern of every single time that, why are we always preaching these messages of, goodness and happiness and rainbows? And I'm like, when I read my Bible, I don't see these stories all the time of prosperity. Everyone's not meant to be rich. Like, I don't see where that's at here. More and more it became, I just questioned a lot of, it just didn't feel right. And I didn't understand half of this stuff. We go to Bible study, but like we never really studied the Bible. We read books of the Bible and we talked about them, but we never really studied them. I don't know if that makes sense to people. Like, we never really just broke it down on word for word, line for line. Like, why does this mean this? Who is this about? And I just started to question more and more, and church became a show. Church for me started to become a business. All I would see would be, if Jesus came in here, he flipping all these tables over. It just became a show of selling. And I felt every pastor became a prostitute to this world and really wasn't preaching anything of the truth. Like, there's got to be more to this. For me, then it really started to change for me when I started to think about the letter J. Now, I don't know if y'all know, but the letter J, about 500 years old. So if this man that we call Jesus walked the earth over 2,000 years ago, how could his name be Jesus if the letter J was created about 500 years ago? Like, that, it didn't make any sense to me. It didn't. And as a mother, I am proud of being able to call my son by his name. And so I would think to myself, what did Mary call him? This is her son. She had to call her son something, and it wasn't with the letter J, so what was it? So I started digging more into that, and I'm like, okay. So Jesus was a Hebrew, so wouldn't they have spoken Hebrew? So then I tried to start my journey tracking the name back in Hebrew, what Mary would have called him. I still quite didn't know, but that was part of my start of my journey of this, something's not right. So then I started reading more, and I'm like, wait a minute, Israel's not a country, Israel is a people? Wait. More thinking, but I still didn't know where to dig deeper into this. But I knew every Sunday that I went to church, it just bothered my spirit that I was there, because I felt like I was being lied to and that everybody was in on the lie but me. And I was just like, but what's the lie? What is it that I'm not getting? Everyone knows it, but nobody's willing to share it with me. It just doesn't feel right. But then I asked a pastor about Christmas. And I said, hey, I really want to do some more, scripture study about it. Can you show me where in the Bible they talk about celebrating Christmas? And says it's not in the Bible. Well, then why do we celebrate it if it's not in the Bible? Like, who told us to celebrate it? So about that time, I'd been divorced now for about 8 years, and about that time, my mom was really getting on my nerves about not dating. And I made a vow to myself. There's no man out there. I am very persnickety. I have very high standards. Unless he's coming in on a unicorn, shooting Skittles out the rear of his behind, he's not going to be for me. I said pretty much God himself is going to have to come down here and say him. So I just said no to dating. Absolutely not. I'll be fine by myself. That's it. But my mom was getting on my nerve, and she's, she had actually lost her partner, and she was just like, just try it. Just go one date. If you go on one date, I will leave you alone. I will stop talking to you about it. So I put myself out there on an app, and I was like, one date. She said one date, and she'll leave me alone. This guy kept coming up on this app, but he was so corny, standing in front of his car, and I was like, what kind of pose is that? Like, sir, how old are we? Why are we standing in front of our car like this? Like, what? But the app and the algorithm for the app kept saying this guy is a high quality match for you. And then he hearted me, and I was like, fine. And then maybe a few hours later, he sent me a message and was like, let's do coffee. First of all, I don't even drink coffee. I drink tea. But okay, whatever. Went out, and lo and behold, first of all, his name was kind of crazy. But I'm just thinking, I don't know what his mama was on, but she came up with a very unique name. Because that's what our people does anyway. We can come up with some stuff. So that's all I thought it was. But I was like, I'm not going to butcher this man's name. I'm going to have him tell me his name. So when I met him, I was like, how do you say your name? And he said, Kasamak. Oh, you ain't got a nickname? Okay. All right. He said, but you can call me Charles. Charles? I have a brother named Charles, and I have a strict rule. Don't date anyone that's named after one of your brothers or your father. Because that's just weird. So I'm like, this gonna be a flag on the play. His name Charles. Oh. But then I said, well, talked about his name, Kasamat. And he said, well, I'm Hebrew. Huh? Tell me more. And he got to talking about his belief. And I was like, That's what it is. That what you're describing is what I have been searching and thinking of, but I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have a process, but that makes so much sense to me. You don't understand. And so we began to talk about our experiences and things like that, and we shut the coffee shop down. Okay? And I have been on my walk and my journey with the truth ever since I was able to meet him and put a name to it. I had already started the journey of leaving Christianity and not being in that world anymore. It felt like a lie, and I didn't want to live a lie. So when I learned the true name is Yahweh, and it's Yahweh Shai, and that I am the people of the book. I am Israel. My history, my ancestors lived these curses. What other people in history has ever lived these curses? It all makes so much sense. And while I still struggle with some things, I'm so glad that I found my husband, and he's been a great tutor, if you will, and leader and pastor to help guide me. Now listen, sometimes this gets crazy still. It's a work in progress. But the life that I have wanted and have thought about since I was a little girl and knew that I was set apart for is like all coming full circle. I don't know yet still what this journey is going to, or where this journey is going to lead me. But knowing that I have been fearing the Most High, and in essence, for the most part, following His commandments all my life, not knowing why. I just did. I didn't know that's what they were. I didn't know why I felt set apart. But I knew that my life had to be different. I had to be different for a purpose. Do I hope and pray that my family will see that they need to wake up to the truth and live the way? Absolutely. Is it far-fetched right now in my belief? Yes, because I have seen nothing but a family that serves wickedness and unrighteousness all my life. They are definitely a family of do what thou wilt. And I truly wish that they would awake from that and know that they are headed for the lake of fire. I mean, my heart wishes and hopes and prays that surely soon enough they will see my light and my life and see the blessings that when you follow after Yah and you truly serve Him with your heart and your soul, and you live a life pleasing to Him, the blessings that He gives you. I mean, you don't even have to be thinking that you want it, but He gets it, and you just go, what? I mean, the things, even with the property that we have, that was in my wildest dream, if money were no object, what would I want in a property? And my realtor took my, if I could have it all, and made a search and found something that I totally thought was out of bounds, wasn't obtainable for where we are positioned now in life. And in less than a month of me talking to her, she finds this property, and I'm like, this ain't going, it's not going to work, but we'll see it. Because as a previous realtor, tidbit for people, sometimes the pictures don't give you the entire picture, and you have to see it in person, and then you can see the bigger picture. And that's what happened. And there was barely any resistance or anything from the previous owners, and it was pretty much like, hey, let's go. And I mean, I was like, listen, this is going to take a minute because I'm very persnickety. It's going to take me a minute to find what I'm looking for. So if we start this now, maybe in 6 months, I would have a couple choices. And when I tell you the Most High provides, He provides. And we got everything we were wanting in a home and a property that we can afford and be comfortable in. So it is still my heart's desire that my family, those that I love, wake up and realize that they are Hebrew Israelites, that they are the people of the book. The Bible is our history. It's right there for you in black and white. Read it for yourself. Don't rely on no pastor to read it for you. Read it and digest it, line by line by line. Here a little, there a little. Precept upon precept. Digest it. Read it. Ask questions. If your pastor can't give you a answer in scripture, line, chapter, and verse, show you where it says that thing in scripture, then your pastor is lying to you. The Most High, He is not a Yah of confusion. He says what He means, and He means what He says, and He doesn't go back on His word. So if it's there in scripture and your pastor can back it up and show you where that thing specifically says it, then you got a great pastor. But if he can't, you need to run, leave that thing. It's not of Yah, and you are headed for the lake of fire. So I hope you all have learned a little bit about myself. I am an open book. So if you got some other questions or things that you want to know about me or that I didn't address, I don't know. I tried to wrap it up, but give you a little synopsis, but that is who I am. I love Yah. I mean, if you read my shirt, it says, obey Yah. So I love Yah. I love the Most High. I diligently seek every day that He allows me to breathe another breath. And I am unashamed. And I hope that you follow me on this journey as I still seek Him and yearn to know more of Him every day. And also this amazing property that He's given us to prepare for His return. Because if y'all don't know, Yahweh Shai is coming back soon. You better get into it and get your minds right and get ready. Because everything that the book says is going to happen. Have y'all not been paying attention? We are at the end of times. We are coming to the end of times. And if you are not prepared, you will perish in the lake of fire when he returns. So I thank you for sitting and enjoying my long story. Thank you for being a follower of the Hebrew Chronicles, Homestead Chronicles. Like and subscribe if you want. Spread the word. Tell a few people. Tell them to come along. Again, post your questions in the comments. I'll get to them when I can. Try to. If you got ideas for projects you think we should do, please share your knowledge. Also, we are also looking for help. So if you're in the Colorado area and you really want to, come out and help out with some projects or got some ideas for some projects, please share. Hit me up. All right. Thank y'all. Love you. Mwah. Later, Gators.